All right. We are back finally after life has put a brick wall in front of a lot of us and had us do its bidding instead of just what we want to do. But we're back for another episode. I think this is our third year pretty much doing this. I have Ryan and Ross with us tonight. Hopefully we'll have Luke on here in a little bit. How are y'all doing?
Doing okay.
Doing great, man. Doing great. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a little rough weekend. Had volleyball didn't go so well yesterday, and then 49ers lost with that crap today. So, but anywho,
That's
looking
crap.
on to the next week. Um,
It's crap.
so I'm just gonna start right off. To start talking about some college football. I think that's pretty much what we're gonna talk about tonight. Is just football in general. It's not too much with anything going on with video games. Just a lot of talk about video games. Not really any big movies coming out anytime soon. Besides, some of the Star Wars episodes that have come out. So, but in the world of college football, it started out. Some of us have talked about how it depends on what your name is, depends on how you're ranked at the beginning of the year, and like I hate that. I hate that just because of what your name is where you get ranked. Like LSU, did they beat Alabama last year? Sure, but Alabama's not Alabama. They're just not, and they get this high stinking ranking, and they just haven't looked good. But just looking at the poll right now that just was released, USC dropped like 8 spots with their loss the other night. LSU is sitting in the middle of a lot of them with a 4-2 or with a 2-loss record. Um, Alabama didn't go up or down. I don't know. I don't think I'm completely sold on Georgia.
Me either.
Michigan is besides that one good year a couple years ago. Michigan always goes undefeated and then chokes.
Yep. Craps the
I don't
bed
know what to think
out.
about Ohio State. Besides, I'm starting to hate the coach more and more and more. Um, I'm not sold on Florida State. I really like Washington though.
Me too, dude. That
Really love Washington.
Michael Penix, however you say his name. That dude's elite. Like I'm not usually watching a whole bunch of games outside the SEC, but when Washington's playing, I'm watching him.
Yeah. Uh,
Like,
Notre Dame
he's just
looks.
so electric. Like he's just fun to watch.
Yeah. Notre Dame is good, but just depends on the time of the week. Uh, Missouri, they're a surprise team, I guess you'd say, but I don't know. I think I haven't watched too many of their games. Every time I see them, it seems like they're always on offense. So I never really get to watch anything other than that. I know they got a good offense, but I don't know anything else. Um,
So there's this guy I follow on Twitter. He's connected to the SEC network in some way, but he always puts out a little thing about the SEC, like every SEC school every single week after the games. Like, it shows their record, and he says, "What do you think about what do you think the record's going to be at the end of the season?" And here's my take on. I want to give my take on Missouri, and it's this: if you look at the rest of Missouri's schedule, and which is I think it's Tennessee, not in this particular order, but it's like Tennessee, I think South Carolina, no Georgia, and like there's a couple other teams. And every time I look at the schedule over the past 2 weeks, I've said Missouri can either win out or they're going to lose or they'll lose every single game. Like that's just Missouri. And now, to be a little bit of a hater of Missouri, most of Missouri's issues most of like a good chunk of Missouri's wins are from just like the weirdest luck that you can have. Like you can make an argument that they should honestly be 6-3, or not 6-3. My bad. But 4-3 for a couple of different games. I mean, like that one 60-yard kick. That yes, good on that guy, but that's luck. That is pure luck, and it's no matter what, no matter how you look at it. Now, does luck matter in W's and L's? Not really, but that's just how it is. But they could be, like I said, they could win out potentially just because they're weirdly lucky, or they're also weirdly unlucky and they don't win another game. So,
well, that East, like you have Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri. They're 7-0, 5-2, and then the next three are 5-1, and then you have South Carolina and Vanderbilt, which are 2-4 and 2-6.
Yeah.
So it's either like everybody's really good or not so good, and like I don't know until Tennessee gets like they lost Brew McCoy, which that hurts because he's a big physical receiver. He can also pass block or run block. But I don't know. I love Milton. He is a great leader. I've just never been impressed with him because there's a reason why he always loses the starting job. Just is. And the media pushed him just because he could throw very, very far, and that doesn't make a quarterback. I don't care if he can throw 100 yards. If he can't hit that person in stride or make good throws under pressure, he's not going to be good. Like
all season.
Yeah, like look at Lamar Jackson. Like that's the reason why Lamar Jackson's not as electric, because he could just razzle dazzle and he can't throw on the run. Hence why he finished, I think, 8th in the Heisman voting the next year after he won the Heisman. But as much as I don't want Nico to be thrown in there and lose half a year of eligibility just because he's filling in the spot. Now, if we have a chance to make another big bowl or something like that, then I guess sure. But I don't know. That's my thought. I would rather have at least 3 full years with Nico. I'm happy with Tennessee's defense because that was the first game they won with Heupel scoring under 30 points since he's been at Tennessee, and they didn't score very many yesterday. So I'm happy with the win yesterday. But I don't know. It's just kind of been crazy. Like LSU's 4-2, but Ole Miss is a quiet 5-1. It's just, and then it's just going to get crazier with everybody moving to different conferences. But I don't know. Talking about the schedules, Tennessee's going 5-1 to Alabama next week. Then they'll be at Kentucky. Like there'll be 2 big back-to-back games on the road. And then they get UConn at home. And then they're at Missouri, home against Georgia. So they've got 3 road games. That'll be tough. But Ross, what is your take on SEC, college, whatever?
Well, the SEC as a whole has been a little bit lackluster this year for sure. Georgia, they've stayed the steady rank of number 1, but I've been saying it all season. They're not the number 1 team in the country. You've had 2 games where you very well could have lost against South Carolina and Auburn. Yeah, you kicked crap out of Kentucky, but that's pretty much the only game besides their non-conference games that they've really shown any type of prowess. They've had almost every game a slow start in the first half, Yeah, they picked it up in the second half, but it's just been the first half has always been ugly for them. I personally don't think they're going to compete against Michigan, Ohio State, Washington. Um, so, and then just everybody else in the SEC has just been ugly this year. Arkansas obviously being one of them. Me and Ryan both being Razorback fans the way that we are. That's been a disappointing season. Being again 13 points away from being well, besides Texas A&M, but being 13 points away from being 6-1, right? Playing four road games away against, and all of them besides Texas A&M, 3 of those being against top 25 teams and only losing by 13 points to them. 2 of those games by field goals, one of them by a touchdown. O-line being lackluster. If everything would falling into place for them, if the O-line would step it up, I think Ryan could speak to more to that than I can. Ryan being a former offensive lineman, he probably pays attention, a lot more attention to that than I do. But still, just the SEC in general has been disappointing, and I don't see any really besides Georgia, and I don't think they deserve it. I don't see any SEC team making the playoffs this year. But Georgia probably will, because they'll probably win out, because who else do they have to play?
Tennessee.
I mean, Tennessee could top them. They very, very well.
The SEC championship game.
Against who? LSU?
Maybe.
Probably against LSU.
The thing with LSU's defense is garbage, but their offense is really good with Jaden Daniels, and it's gotten better. It wasn't good like when they played at FSU. It was not good. But they've adjusted. They've gotten better, and he's just a playmaker at this point. Without him at quarterback, I don't know how good their offense is, but with him at quarterback, he's just been playing lights out for the most part. So yeah, I think they could him alone could give people whoever they play, if they play in the SEC championship game, which they'll play in the SEC championship game likely. And I say this because I think it'll probably come down to this. Most likely if they play and beat out, well, they will play, but if they beat Alabama in a couple weeks, because I think they play Alabama the week after Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but that's usually like those 2 games are usually coincide with one another. But and then they'll have from there. Let's see. They've played Arkansas. They've played Auburn. They've played Ole Miss. They've played Missouri. Or they've played. Did you grab my bread tag? I think they've actually played almost everyone in the SEC West now, except Alabama. So yeah, if they beat Alabama, they'll they might go to the SEC championship game, and that's also if Ole Miss wins out as well, or doesn't win out as well.
But as far as the rest of college football, I think like the way you were, what you had said just a little bit earlier, how you're not impressed with Michigan or Ohio State. I don't know. Is it just me, or does it just seem like college football in general this year is not lived up to what it usually does, the way it usually is?
I actually disagree with that point. I actually think it's better this year than it's been in a while, because you're not getting one single team that is just absolutely dominating everybody. Like, it's almost week in and week out. A lot of these teams are going into games and you're like, there's points you're like, I don't know if they could win or lose this game. Now, it's not every single game, obviously, but there's a lot more. We're seeing actually a lot more parity in the game than what we're used to seeing. And because of that, it's been a little bit more competitive, and you're seeing it across all of the conferences and everything.
And maybe that's why it does seem to be a little bit weirder, because like I was going to ask a question a little bit earlier, like who truly is the number one team? And I don't know if anybody can really answer that at this point.
Well,
Air
it's kind of
Force,
like
because
when
they're undefeated.
Who?
Air Force.
Oh. They are
so
ranked.
there's as we're talking right now, Buffalo's had another scare in their game. Somebody had to be strapped to a gurney and put in the ambulance, and they're taken off the field. I don't know who it is or what the injury was, but praise another primetime game for them that somebody's taken off. But it's kind of like that year that Darren McFadden came in second again behind Troy Smith of Ohio State. Troy Smith had lived up to how he had done his year before, and so it was kind of like, well, he's the favorite, and so it was like, well, it's his Heisman Trophy to lose, and so unless he has just this really terrible couple games, then he has to stay in front, kind of thing. And that's kind of how I feel about how Georgia is. Like, they're going to stay there until they either lose a game or until they just really, really struggle against Arkansas State or something like that. That's how I see it going to happen. Because Michigan doesn't have anybody tough besides Ohio State. Ohio State didn't have anybody tough besides Michigan. So I feel like Georgia's there. Even if Georgia wins out, and it'll be just like that year. What was it? Alabama beat Georgia in one of them beat each other during the season, but then the other one beat each other in the SEC championship, I think. And then, but since they're so highly ranked, they don't drop out of the college football playoff, and then they're still in line for the college football playoff. So, but I don't know. I hope, a couple years ago, Washington looked good with the coach that was at Boise State, Peterson, but they couldn't hang with Alabama. I truly still don't think Alabama last year nor this year is the Alabama we know. I think some of it has to do with the NIL deals.
I think it's a little bit that. I think it's a constant rotation just because of how good they've been. But I think it's a constant rotation of offensive and defensive coordinators. Because they don't. I just don't like. Saban's got his own system, but they all have their own kinks to Saban's system. Yeah. And I just, you can't. You're bringing in a new guy almost every 2 years, and sometimes just every year. That's difficult.
And some of them are guys that have been head coaches and kind of successful, like the Kiffin, the Sarkisian, things like that. And they just need to revive their career. And so they go there.
Yeah.
And then they get a job. I just don't think right now money talks, and you can't just walk in a room and go, I'm Nick Saban, I'm Alabama.
Yeah.
For people to go, ooh, okay, I want to go there. I think it's like, well, what kind of boosters do you have at yours to give me? Because, Michigan can give me $8 million to be the next toothpaste sponsor.
Yeah. Then another thing is I'll give them this. They've been. I'm not the biggest fan of we're in a rebuilding year. I mean, they are kind of in a rebuilding moment and everything. And some of it might just depend on where Saban's at and his just own, his own head.
It used to be
sometimes
his system has changed. He always had a system quarterback, and they would run, the Derrick Henrys, the Mark Ingrams, all those big time running backs, where they switched, and then they had good quarterbacks, but they had the receivers, all those great guys from Amari Cooper to Devontae Smith, and then the last couple of years, it's been the Jalen Hurts, the Tuas, the Mac Jones, the Bryce Youngs. And so now it's quarterbacks. But now it's like they got a quarterback issue. It doesn't seem like they have a star-studded running back. So it's like kind of like an identity crisis kind of thing of what are we?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Like it is going to be a good finish. If Tennessee can't make it, I'm hoping that Washington can pull through. And if they make it that far, then hope their offense can outdo Georgia if Georgia's still there. But
I would put my, if I was a betting man, I would put my money on Washington against Georgia.
like I would like it.
I really do. I really would. I'm not saying that Washington is, the number one team in the nation by ranking. They're not, but I don't see that in Georgia this year. Yeah, great. You're back to back national champions. You've been number one all season long, but just based on their play throughout the season so far, besides Kentucky, I don't believe at all that they're the number one team. But other analysts, the people who've been doing this a lot longer, say different. If they get to the playoffs and they get blown out, then they'll prove that. But it'd be nice. I'd like to see, Tennessee trounce them and win the SEC East and play Bama or LSU and this, in the SEC championship, and then see where that goes. Because it sure as heck ain't gonna be Arkansas, and ain't gonna be.
I think the issue with a lot of Pac-12 teams, and I'm not joking, like this is not me being, trolling them or anything. A lot of the issues with Pac-12 teams, like most of the time, is that they have like one monumental dud in them. Like it's like they just can't help themselves as teams. They'll like go on like these amazing runs, and then they'll play someone that you're looking at that schedule and you're going, this is a W. Like this is an easy win. And then they'll go out there and just be like, all right, we're gonna whiff now. Like that happens every year. And again, I don't know what it is. Like I'm not saying they're bad teams ultimately. It's just there's just
they're just like the Michigan and Ohio States. It's like they're always powerhouse and they're always running through that conference, and then all of a sudden they're not a national champion. And then like back when Chip Kelly was at Oregon, Jim Harbaugh and can't remember the other guy who was the Stanford coaches when Christian McCaffrey came through there at Stanford. Those were like the two teams. And then you had USC right before them, which USC won national championships. But when Pete Carroll left, they kind of fizzled out. But you had those two teams, and it was like that was the big game, the number 2 versus number 5 teams. And then Oregon always won. But Oregon got beat somewhere at the end of the season, or Oregon, they finally made it to play, Auburn in the national championship, but then that little razzle dazzle, that offense didn't work out right, So, all right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the NFL. Ross, so you were talking to us a couple of weeks ago. Who'd you decide on for a team?
I haven't yet. To be honest with you, it's not because I don't. It's not because I don't want to watch it. I just don't have enough time at the moment to sit down and watch these games. Most of the time, by the time they're on or done, I've already not. I'm not. It's not that I'm not paying attention to it. I'm looking at the scores and everything. I'm trying, but I just haven't gotten there just yet. But I'm enjoying.
You're leaning towards?
Not really at the moment. Nobody's really just stood out to me just quite yet. Like I said, I've got connections with you guys and my father-in-law. he he bought some baby clothes for unborn or unborn, and they're Chiefs clothes. So I'm kind of like, oh, do I have to root for the Chiefs because my son's gonna be a Chiefs fan? Uh, uh, no, but I mean, I'm really just enjoying watching right now when I can. Um, just for the like watching the 49ers and watching them play, even though I know I didn't get to watch them play. I didn't watch anything today. But I mean, and I know the 49ers lost, but they have an electric offense. No, that's fun. That's fun to watch. I did watch them in Dallas play. Watch them kick a crap out of Dallas. And they were they were clicking on all fronts, and it looked really good. And them boys, Dallas, every year it's the same with them, I guess, with like the Razorbacks. It's, you think this is going to be it. This is going to be the year. And then next thing you know, they're flopping in some way or another. But I just haven't had a chance to, I haven't had enough time to really sit down and actually get to watch some of these games.
Yeah.
Like you guys do. I hope maybe one day that'll change. May not be this season, but hopefully maybe next season we'll see what comes of it. I hope maybe I can even get in on fantasy football next year. Get that going. I've never done that.
So some things, Ryan and I were talking about before we started tonight, talking about we hate how these big calls that referees make in the last 5 minutes of a game really affect the game. There was a thing in the 49ers game, like it was a hard hit. It just was. The receiver was catching the ball, and it was a little bit high, went through his hands, and safety came in, hit him really hard, knocked him on his back, and they threw a flag. Knew they would, because when you see something in real time, you go, "Ooh, that was a hard hit," or this is But when they slowed it down, it was shoulder to shoulder, so it was a legal hit, and that was a fourth down play, and well, now they get first down, personal foul.
And they're in field goal range.
Yeah, they're in field goal range. They go down a couple plays, kick a field goal. San Francisco had a chance too. They came down, kicked game-winning field goal and missed it, but it's just one of those things where just over 2 minutes left, one timeout, that, San Francisco probably going to run the clock out, and it just stinks. But then again, San Francisco had a lot more other choices to, better protection and wouldn't have to be in that situation.
They kind of stopped playing their game.
But it just like it's rough to see. But I think about even like what I see with people are so rough on umps, in little leagues and college and high school. Some people just do it because they just like doing it and they don't care. But then again, you don't like what you see and you think that person's lousy, then you do it too. You go do it, and because I see the other side of it. Like, I would never want to ref or ump or do anything like that, just because you can't see anything. So like where I'm standing on the sidelines coaching, and I'm like, that's a foul. Well, that one person is at a different angle, but that's where I felt like there should be some kind of instant replay with whether it's a flag or the office above, when they look at every single scoring possession, and something like that. It needs to be like, no, that is clearly not personal foul. Let's contact the ref and say, hey, this is not a foul. Let's take that back. Like, I feel like in those situations,
absolutely,
like in the Tennessee game yesterday, guy was going deep. It was underthrown, and guy hit Tennessee's arm, knocked it down. The ball's still in the air. Tennessee doesn't get it, and I'm like, that's down at the 10-yard line. That should have been pass interference automatically. And then, then there was a holding call. The guy got brought down. The ref's right there, but you're behind the ref, so the ref could be looking to his right. He could be looking at the quarterback. He's not looking at the lineman. So I don't know. It's just
I think especially like that, I think what's most frustrating, and I put this out there on Twitter. Not that I have a whole lot of Twitter followers. I just do it to get it out of my head, really. But that, and I'm in agreement with you on this one. Like, there has to be refs are they're not held accountable. Like, what they call is what goes, whether it's wrong or right, or what they miss is what goes. And there's no reviewing it. You can't review that. And like, okay, why? Because even in this situation, like, I was thinking back to in Arkansas, I think it was against LSU, maybe it was against Ole Miss, but it was called a horse collar. And what they called as the horse collar was not even a horse collar. It was actually a face mask. I think it was offsetting penalties is what it would have been if they would have called it right. And but still, it's like, okay, you called a horse collar, and it clearly was not a horse collar. You call,
yeah.
like, okay, you can review targeting, but you can't review anything else. Nothing.
Yeah, no.
Nothing at all. I'm gonna call a pass interference on you, and because I say it is, that's what it is. Well, you've got a coach. Maybe you've got the coach who says that was not a pass interference. I'm going to challenge that, and then it goes to the review. Okay, you're right. Maybe it wasn't a pass interference, but because in this situation in NFL, college, the ref says no, I say it is. Too bad. I don't like that, especially in games where it could affect the outcome. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you got to review, every single. Maybe do it like you get two challenge. Maybe you get one challenge on a penalty. Use it wisely.
Yeah.
There's something to that nature where the refs can be held accountable for their calling. I mean, am I wrong? Am I speaking out of turn here? Am I crazy?
I get it. Like just like with baseball, they were wanting to do the pitch clock and speed it up and things like that. But I don't know. I just feel like don't do every single one. Whether it's a challenge flag to, separate away from spotting a ball or a fumble and things like that. Like, I just feel like in certain moments, especially key plays, like the 49ers game today, that is a key down for either, and you can say all penalties need to come from New York or wherever they're from, just like under the 2-minute warnings or every scoring possession, things like that. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it needs to be something. I know they did the pass interference thing, especially that blatant one against the Saints, several years ago, and then they did that for a couple years to challenge those. But I don't know. I feel like I also saw a face mask they didn't call on the 49 or against the 49ers. Like, I saw it in real time, then I saw it in the replay, and I don't know.
Because you're right. I mean, if you tried to challenge every stinking penalty, the way they do the game, especially the college football, the way they've done the game clock now, it would negate that. You know what I mean? So I think there needs to be some type of rule, or like I said, the way you could challenge certain. You got two challenges or whatever, and okay. So even like yesterday, I saw a picture, and I didn't get to catch all the whole game, especially not the ending of it. But apparently, on that last drive against Texas, Texas A&M have against Tennessee, there's a clear picture. You might have saw it, and then dude was running back, whoever had the ball. Again, somebody had a hold of his face mask, and I don't know if that would have, and they missed it. That it was a call that it wasn't called. And I'm not saying this at all. Like, I'm glad I want Texas A&M to win because I can't stand Texas A&M. But in that situation right there, if Tennessee coach had what if the Tennessee coach had seen it, they didn't call it, and he had saved his challenge or whatever, like you missed that. I'm challenging that. And they go back and say, yeah, that was a face mask, 15-yard penalty, gives them the first down, extends their drive, gives them an opportunity. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's one of the things like you're not going to get this the entire game, but we're going to give you this opportunity. If you want to challenge something or you want to call something out that was missed, you're going to have that opportunity, but you're going to have to use it very wisely. Just so there's more accountability for these refs, because I just can't, as I've going throughout the years, I just can't stand the fact that whatever a ref says goes. Yeah. I don't like that. Like that means they're not inscrutable. They can't be challenged. They rule the roost, and they get to determine outcomes of games if they so choose.
Yeah.
And
Brian, what do you think?
What do I think about the
talked about it a little
refs?
earlier, but
I think refs are the worst. I also think the Giants are stupid.
You said the Giants?
Yeah, so I also think the Giants are stupid. I just caught that they had like 11 seconds left on the clock on the goal line at the end of the half with no timeouts, and they were like, this is the perfect time to run it up the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like Arkansas.
It was first and goal. No, that's not like Arkansas. That's actually the opposite of Arkansas.
Bullcrap. That's all they do.
Run it. No. Arkansas does this thing where a lot of other teams are doing it as well. When they're like on the goal, not the goal line, but when they're on like 4th and 1, they're like, the best thing that we need to do right here is run it out of shotgun.
And up the middle.
That's not
for a run game behind an O-line that can't open up the run game and hadn't been all season.
That's the power run game. Like there's a difference. They did not do that. The Giants should not have done that. They had 11 seconds left on the clock. They had no timeout. They should have tried to find the end zone on a pass play and then kicked a field goal. It would have been the smarter thing to do if they were able to do that. Speaking
of that, so I think it's Miami University. I don't know if y'all saw this.
I did see that. It was also
on stupid. 2 separate times. This coach has made a blunder of a call, and he ran the ball when he could have kneeled it.
Literally,
probably kneeled it one more time. The clock could have went out.
They'd been ran undefeated.
The ball, fumbled it, and then 2 plays later, the other team scores the winning touchdown. The game's over. Even the announcers are like, why? So
the announcer was like, that was literally the dumbest coaching decision I've ever seen. I'm paraphrasing.
And it's not the first time he's done it. He did something else like that, and I think they ended up losing. But anyways,
like,
just made me think of that.
There are certain things that I'm not a fan of. Like sometimes I'm not a fan of like the cliche run it up the middle. Like when it's pretty obvious, like, think outside the box a little bit. But I understand why it happens. But like there's things like, that everyone does that it's just kind of like it makes sense why you're doing it here. And yes, when you've been playing a annoying game with a team like Georgia Tech, I haven't watched the whole game. I didn't watch any of the game, but I mean, I was keeping up with it because it was on my feeds and whatnot. When you're playing an annoying game with Georgia Tech and you have the ball and you can just finally get this game out of your system, get it out of your system. Don't do stupid things. They're going to make you not win the game. I think there's an epidemic this year with offensive coordinators. I don't know what they're doing, but they're all stupid. Like, just all of them. If you're an offensive coordinator this year, you're just bad at your job. Not the year of the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. So going back to NFL. So just I was talking to Ryan also about this before we get on. 49ers lost their game today against the Browns, which Browns just, got to Purdy a lot. But now I feel like people are going to say, oh, yeah, this shows you Purdy's not good. He's lucked out. And I don't know how you can luck out, 10 games against some good teams. And, who knows how the playoffs would have turned out if he didn't hurt his elbow. But that's the only game that he actually lost. And they only got to play a couple drives. But since he started the game, then the loss goes against him. So, but other than that, he's thrown, like I saw something where he has more passing yards or on the pace for more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes' MVP year and more rushing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson's MVP year, But, anything can change, and like he could suck the rest of this year, and then 49ers looking for a different quarterback next year. You just never know. And I know a lot of help comes with that defense that they have. With the defensive line's good, linebackers are good. Secondary is pretty decent. But looking at the NFL as a whole, everybody gives a lot of hype to Buffalo, but like Buffalo's losing right now. And Buffalo, everybody's like, well, Buffalo beat Miami. Oh, okay, but Miami's not going to score 70 points every week. An NFL team scoring 40 points or more every week is just unheard of. And usually in an NFL, you do, it's the elite people. It's a minority of people that actually made it to the NFL. Where college, you still have, good systems and, can people upset in college? Sure, but you got to be ready NFL from any day, or a team that's 0-10 ends up beating somebody. Like you see it, like the Lions did a couple years ago. They were 0 for, end up winning. The Jets were 0 for, end up beating somebody.
I think did he play a good game today? Again,
Who?
theoretically, Purdy.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why that wasn't the greatest of games. Part of it was the rain, and that's for both teams. They were both just kind of like pretty bad at the beginning of it, and all the penalties were just also like it was pretty bad too, and everything. But
I called a holding on 49ers at the end too. And I thought Cooper initiated more of the than the it was like a light grab.
Yeah, but another there's got to be a lot of pressure because quarterbacks, any kind of player, well, most players that say, "Oh, I do my best to block out the noise," you're not blocking it out. You're just not. And what do they say at the beginning of every game? What had they been saying at the beginning of every 49ers game since this season has started? I'm asking the question. I know the answer. You probably know the answer too. But what do they say at the beginning of every 49ers game since the season has started about Brock Purdy?
Well, everything I hear is always good stuff.
Yeah, you're right. It is good. But they keep saying the same thing over and over again. And it was true. He has not lost a regular season game yet. He has not lost a regular season game yet. And at some point, that's probably got to get to you. Like, you're going out there thinking to yourself, is this going to be the time I lose the first game? And then
I'm not even sure if it's that. Just because the fact that, for one, like Roethlisberger won his first 13 or something like that. But the thing is, he's going to lose sometime. Yeah. Dan Marino lost games. Joe Montana lost games. Purdy could have thrown for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. They could have still lost that game.
Yeah.
Like,
also, another thing, I don't know what this is, and you're kind of seeing it with the Bills. This is not, I always feel like there's a backup quarterback curse. Like, like they've been preparing all week, and you're like, okay, they're playing a backup quarterback, and then inevitably, the backup quarterback decides to have the game of his life.
Yeah.
It feels like that happens as well. But, yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure for that, and it's a second year, and it's not even his full. I don't even know if you call it his full first year yet,
Yeah.
because he came in mid-season, so it's
Yeah.
not his full first year. He's not even played a full first year yet. I mean, that's sometime soon. He's not played a full first year yet, And so when people are like, "Is he elite? Is he elite?" I don't think that a second year player of any caliber should be like considered elite yet. I just don't.
Well, so that makes me think about something else I want to talk about. So, we talked about, quarterbacks in the past, and like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was supposed to kind of revive Denver, and then Sean Payton coming in is supposed to have helped that. And but there was a stat I saw the other day that talked about Russell Wilson's first 7 years in the league. When supposedly he was such an elite quarterback, he had a defense that was number one in points per game allowed, total yards allowed, passing yards allowed, rushing yards allowed, passer rating allowed, and passing touchdowns allowed. You had a defense that for 7 years ranked number one in all those categories. So it's like, what else do you need to do on offense? You don't have, like, if Patrick Mahomes had that defense, the Chiefs would be undefeated. Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have to try to do all these crazy antics to win the games. If
Yeah.
Peyton Manning had this at Indianapolis, Tom Brady would not have all these championships. And it's just, it is what it is. Like, that's the reason why. What was it, 43-8 Super Bowl? Peyton Manning versus the Seahawks that time, like, that wouldn't have happened. And I just feel like that's, kind of with some of the offenses, when you when you hear about Miami putting up 70, okay, but their defense still gave up some, their defense didn't just hold somebody to 10. But, and as bad as what people want to say the Broncos are, they still put up, even though there was backups in or whatever, but they still put up some points, on Miami, so that's where I would think, well, hope we can score 70 every week, and like, we talk about all these quarterbacks making all this money, and I'm like Daniel Jones, like, for the Giants, what has he done? Why is he one of the richest quarterbacks in the league? What has he done? Like if that's the case, then give Brock Purdy $50 million.
I actually think the Broncos are about to tank, by the way.
Well, I can see it. I hate it, but
do I though?
First two picks go to the Bears, I think. They keep going the way it is.
Yeah, but there's two good quarterbacks. Like, I know he wants. I think Peyton really wants Caleb Williams, but I like that Drake May kid, and then I don't think that Michael Penix kid. He could sneakily get up there as well. But I'm okay. Like, I think we're about to finally get a quarterback that's good from the draft. We haven't really done that because our generationally good quarterback didn't know how to pick quarterbacks for some reason, which is like the weirdest thing. But I think tomorrow and as the weeks go on, we're gonna sell off a bunch of players. Like, I think Judy's gone soon. I think Sut's gone soon. I could almost even see them at some point, maybe not this year, but next year or between seasons, I could see them unloading Russell Wilson's contract as well.
in some way.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Russ isn't a good player still. Like, for the most part, he's played fine. Like, you know, he's done what needs to be done. The defense is just, I don't know what's wrong with the defense. I guess it's a little bit terrible. I'm not sure. But I think a lot of these players that have been, especially the ones that have been a part of the losing seasons that we've had over the past 4 or 5 years that are still on the team, they're about to hit the road because everyone needs a fresh start. It's unfortunate, but everyone needs a fresh start. There's one guy who was a former Broncos player. He was cut from Vic Fangio's squad, and he was complaining on Twitter, or saying on Twitter that Sean Payton's already lost the locker room and everything. And it's like, everyone, like all the Broncos base is like, that's fine with us. These guys are, we hate to say it, but these guys are losers. That's just what they've been. They've been losers. And it's like, if they want out, don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that's the thing. Like, there's some players that I really like, to be honest with you. Like, I like Judy. I think with the right, in the right system, Judy works perfectly, but maybe it's just time to flush the whole thing, which is fine with me. I have to suffer the rest of the year watching them lose. I'm strong. I can do this. I've watched the Razorbacks lose for the past forever. I can watch the Broncos continue to lose also for the past forever. I will make the 49ers my emotional support team.
Well, I still, somebody said, well, who's the 49ers played, and I'm like, well, none of the teams have been like elite teams, but I just don't know anybody like the AFC East. Again, everybody gives the Bills the hype, but what have the Bills done? And like the Bengals have snuck into a Super Bowl before, and they're just not elite. They got a little flashy offense, but
the Bills are a team that I want to see get to it if the Broncos
I do
can't do
too.
it.
I like their coach. I like their system.
But
I like their guys. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen. Like they're
just not a primetime team.
No. Like
it's like every time they've been on primetime television, they've just gone out there and just completely thrown a dud. That's what they're doing now. I mean, I don't know if I'm not watching the game, so I don't know if they're doing a little bit better by this point, but the lights are too big in Buffalo apparently.
But the Chargers, until they do something different, they're going to be the same way. They only have flashy offense. The Raiders are not where they need to be. So
Patriots are.
I don't know. I think
Bill
some
Belichick.
of it. Do it.
Patriots are going to fire Bill Belichick.
So here's my thing about that. As much as I don't like him, and I think that it should be just like college, where if you were prove that you've cheated somewhere, then you should have wins stripped from you. I don't want him to break that all-time record winnings. I really don't, just because I don't like him. And it makes me think, what if Tom Brady came back right now to the Patriots? How good would they be? Because
I don't know.
they don't. I thought Mac Jones was going to be fine. I don't know what happened last year, but it's carried over to this year.
He didn't have a good offensive coordinator last year. I think that's been the big issue. Like, I have a theory behind the Patriots, and I'm not talking about the cheating stuff. I have an actual theory of why they're so bad and Bill Belichick's doing so bad. I think when whoever pushed, I know people say that he pushed Tom Brady out of Foxborough, but I think he tried to kill the organization and to get himself fired from the job. And Robert Kraft didn't want to fire him for whatever reason. And then he was like, well, I guess I'll just live with it. And he's not been able to rebuild it since he killed it. I mean, he brought in what's his face, Matt Patricia, to do offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. Like, you did that. You don't do that thinking, oh, well, he can run the offense. You did it because you knew that it was a bad idea. It's just, that's the only way I can see it. I think part of him wants to get fired from it and everything, because if he steps away, maybe he looks like the bad guy. But if he just is fired, who knows? He puts a stain on the organization. I really think that's what it happened. It's just they're not doing good. Their defense is not bad, but they're not, they're not offensively where they need to be. And next year he's going to be Saban's defensive coordinator.
So, did anybody get to see or watch the Disney Plus version of the London game?
I watched a little bit of it. I'm sad that I haven't sat down and watched more. I think it's still on there, but believe it or not, it actually what the intended result is what they got. Like, even Emily was like, I like football now, which to me was
Ross,
like,
did you hear about
awesome.
Mm-mm.
So the Jaguars and Falcons played a game on October 1st in London, and it was also streamed on Disney, and it was being set up in Andy's room, so Toy Story theme.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that, but no, I didn't get to watch it.
So I turned it on before we went to church, and it was cool. It was about a minute and a half behind the live play, and so finally saw where somebody said something about it. They said there have been some glitches, but the Toy Story game is really done well. They said there's an NFL chip in each player's shoulder pads that track the movement, and then it combines with the Hawkeye optical tracking, which is like they use in tennis, to animate the game in real time. So, like, it was pretty cool. And then, like, the little crane that picks up the toys and the little aliens in the movie, it would drop the football in where it needs to go. If somebody like broke out for a run, his feet caught on fire. The Pizza Planet truck was driving around the field. So it was kind of cool. But like you said, Ryan, that was something where I could see a lot of kids getting interested in football because of that situation. Like, I wish they'd do more of it. Um, so back to the money thing, Ross. What is your take on like the money thing with quarterbacks making or receivers, or let's say this one receiver a couple years ago, let's say they're like, oh, I'm the best, give me 30 million a year, and all of a sudden now this third year receiver is getting as many yards or touchdowns, and they're like, well, I do as good as he does, so I should get that much money. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so
Well, all right, so let's not say quarterbacks. Let's take quarterbacks out. Let's just say like running backs, receivers, defensive players, things like that. Not somebody who touches the ball at every moment.
Okay, so obviously, okay, so each organization, they have the money that they can spend every year or however many. So take somebody or take anybody. They say, all right, we're going to offer you 50 million, 25 guaranteed, and then they put in their contract. Okay, if we win a Super Bowl, you'll get this much, and if you do this, blah blah blah, we'll give you this much, we'll give you this if you do that, right? But a lot of times, I mean, especially like receivers who are coming out of college, or not just receiver. I don't know why I said receivers, but a player that's just coming out of college, and they're signing a $50 million contract. before they even play their first season. So what are you really doing at that point? Because how many, I mean, let's be honest, like how many Heisman Trophies winners have we seen that fell flat, that did not do anything in the NFL?
Yeah.
It should have. On paper, you're the best college football player in the country. You come to the NFL and you suck. You last a season, maybe two. You don't do anything. You don't put up any stats, really good stats. You don't win a Super Bowl. You don't even make it to the playoffs. So what are you really doing at that point? You're paying for the name, and they don't live up to the hype. I mean, I'm not saying that a player shouldn't, regardless of their position, shouldn't get paid, for being on the team and playing pro football. But on the opposite end, prove yourself. Prove that you're going to provide for this team and put up the numbers that we expect from you. Get us a big, big win in a tight spot. Show up when we need you to show up. Earn. It's almost like earn your keep.
And I get it. Like, it's not all guaranteed. When they say this quarterback's making $200 million, I know they're not getting all that. It's like, well, did you lead the league in yards? Did you win an MVP? Did you make it to the playoffs? I understand there's all that stuff. Like, I get that, and if they do all that, yeah, then they get 200, but 120 million of it is guaranteed. And I just have a hard time with somebody who turns into a superstar in year 3 or 4, wants to be paid like he's the best, but yet has never won a Super Bowl or hasn't even won a playoff game. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, my thing with, like, now, even though he won a Super Bowl, was Joe Flacco. They gave him all that money after he beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and then he didn't do anything, and he's been crap ever since. So now you're stuck with a contract, and I know all those people in the contract year, like Randall Cobb was one. He was a receiver, and he did super, super, super well, and he got that big pay to stay in Green Bay, and I really do feel like people go, well, I got my pay, I'm good now.
The biggest issue with the getting paid that much money debate is, like, it comes down to, like, what's happening with what happens when you give someone this much money. It's not always necessarily them that goes by the wayside. It's like you're wasting cap space. And when you waste cap space, you don't get to go out there and get the weapons you need and everything. Like, you just don't. You gotta get guys that are 2s or 3s, in all honesty, because you can't afford anyone else. And you have to hope that those guys that are 2s and 3s can actually do something like catch the ball or run the ball or block for you. If we're just going to talk about quarterbacks, or just using quarterbacks as an example, like, that's usually what happens to these players, is like they don't have anyone around them. Lamar Jackson, who's like, the person that we're predominantly speaking of, he doesn't really have he hasn't had many weapons around him because he's getting paid so much. And to their stupid, annoying credit, the thing that Patrick Mahomes has done is he's restructured his contract on different occasions.
That's what
they can keep the
Tom Brady did.
Yeah.
That's what Peyton Manning did. And that's the thing. I remember somebody, and I think I said this in the podcast before, talking about that defense in Seattle. They gave all that money to Russell Wilson. And I remember somebody made a comment. They said they're going to make a mistake. And I called it. I was like, that defense is slowly going to leave.
Yeah.
You need to give the money to Richard Sherman. You need to give the money to Earl Thomas. You need to give the money to Bobby Wagner. You need to give the money to these people, the Legion of Boom, who are helping them win games.
Mm-hmm.
And they slowly left. And then now
Hmm.
Russell Wilson's trying to do outscoring. Like he had that MVP year for 6 games, and then the next 10 games he was crap.
Yeah, and you take a look at someone like San Francisco right now, which has pound for pound, player for player, probably some of the most recognizable names in the sport right now on both sides of the ball because they're not overpaying them. You
And
know,
that's
people are looking at this team and they're saying names like Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Brock Purdy. And now while I don't personally remember every single name on the defensive side of the ball, but you've got Joey Bosa. Is it
Nick.
Joey or Nick? Nick Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, the other linebacker who's Fred Warner, I think that's his name. You've got I will not say his name because I cannot pronounce it to save my life. You have a really good, yeah, you've got a really good safety back there, and it's like you have all of these names that are recognizable, that are stars in their own right, and people, and like that's what the announcers say. They're like, man, they've got so many talented guys on this team, and it's like, why do they have so many talented guys? Because they're not breaking the bank to pay all of them. I think, what is it? Is it Nick? Is he the highest paid player on the team?
Who, Bosa?
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that held out this year for a better contract, and he got it.
Yeah, probably.
And they went out and they've got freaking Randy Gregory. You know, with a trade with the Broncos. Like it's just they've got the power, you know, they've got it, and because they're not overpaying their quarterback, or they're not overpaying like specific players. And I guarantee it, when Brock Purdy, when it's finally his time to, you know, get that contract extension, I guarantee it. I'll guarantee it right now that they're not gonna just break the bank on him either.
Yeah. And I think
Well,
that goes you really gotta find guys too that love the game and want to play the game. Because like you said, you know, if you're spending, you know, you're offering this guy a contract for $100 million and he's guaranteed 75 million of it. I'm not saying that dude won't love the game, but when you offer somebody that amount of money, guaranteed, no matter what you do, you're going to get $75 million of that $100 million contract.
Yeah.
You do take the risk of, okay, well, I'm set for life. Doesn't matter what I do. Don't really care. Don't care if we win. Don't care if we lose. Don't care if I make a Super Bowl. I don't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I'm getting paid. And you put all your chips into this one basket, hoping that this is going to be the one guy that gets you where you want to go. But football is based off of one person, one or two people. You've got to. I'm not saying that everybody is. I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I think he's earned what he's got. He's won. How many Super Bowls has he won so far?
2.
He's won 2, been to 3. Yeah,
Yep.
1, 2, been to 3. I mean, that's great. I mean, so you might, yeah, okay, you make the case that Patrick Mahomes has earned that big fat contract along with Travis Kelce, and then you know, we could get off on what they're doing, you know, Kelce and Swift and all that crap, but marketing geniuses is whoever pulled that off, but you know, but so you might have one or two, maybe 3 players that maybe can earn that type of contract. But is a football team or any sport, is it made up of one player, 1 or 2 players, or 3 players? No, it's not. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce alone are not going to win a Super Bowl. It's going to take the defense. It's going to take the guard. It's going to take guards, and it's going to take tackles. It's going to take safeties. And you want like Ryan said, you want these best players. You don't overpay them and don't make them feel like, well, daggum, I'm just as good as him. Why am I not getting paid? Why am I not getting paid like he is? You want pay me. Well, no, we can't pay. We don't have enough. We don't have the money. Well, then I'm going to go somewhere where they will pay me that. You know, they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel like they're being.
See, this is what I hate about, and I get it. not everybody they start small and they want to be an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator and they want to end up being a head coach. Just like in high school, you take on an assistant coaching job and you're like, one day I'm going to be a head coach. And all of a sudden, boom, you apply for places, you're this. And then you're thinking, well, my goal is to be here. So you start like Gus Malzahn, and then you go off into college and you go further. But sometimes I feel like I would just want to talk to my coordinators about, man, look what we got here. You are great at defense. You're great at offense. We could win. We could win, 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 win. Can you all stick with me for 10 years? Or like a quarterback, like, listen, we've got you as, like the 49ers, since everybody's kind of saying they got a complete team or whatever. Listen, defense, we have about 7 years that we could win probably 6 championships. Offense, same thing with you. Let's manage our money. Let's look and see what we need to do. Let's try to stick together. And I get it. Somebody goes, if you go to Buffalo, you can get $25 million a year. All right, done. Deuces. I'm out. I get it, and it is a job and it's businesses and people leave jobs in the real world to leave, a corporate to go somewhere else just because of money, or they become a principal instead of being a teacher just because of more money, instead of actually thinking, but I still love doing what I'm doing, but like Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner at USC, number 1 picks make between $6 to $7 million a year in the NFL. He said he can make more money returning to USC next year than he would as a rookie in the NFL. And he said that he would even be able to choose which team he wants to go to if he stays.
You know what he also said, and this is one of the things I'm like, I don't know. Like, if we draft you and you're as good as they say you are at those Broncos, that's cool with me. But he came out, or someone, like, it's a reported thing that he said that whatever team he gets drafted to, he wants an ownership stake in the team. And I'm like, okay, buddy, you're a bit too big for your britches.
No kidding. If that's what he,
Well,
if
yeah,
he
I don't know how I would, like, it's kind of like one of those things where, so we signed you, drafted you, we're going to give you 10% ownership. But now, what are you going to do? You're never going to want to draft a quarterback. Like, I remember playing NBA 2K16 or something, and I was doing a dynasty, and my backup point guard, Steph Curry, left. So I needed a backup point guard. So I drafted one, not even a top ranked one, and Steph Curry's. And again, this is a video game, but we see how Aaron Rodgers diva mode goes into effect. But Steph Curry's happiness with me as an owner dropped because I drafted another point guard. And so Caleb Williams no, you're not trading for Trey Lance. No. Like, why would he even want another quarterback on the roster? Now that depends on how much say they give him, but like, I don't know. Like, again, yeah, that's just too big for your britches kind of thing. And
like I said, that kind of statement going into the NFL. So I mean, this kid, he's not even finished with this year of college football. Doesn't seem like he's going to win a Heisman Trophy, especially after getting the crap kicked out of him by Notre Dame, throwing 3 interceptions. He seems to be, I don't know his intent behind what he said, but it seems to me he's getting closer to being drafted, and he's only worried about money. He's worried about what he can benefit from and how much he can benefit. And Would it be easier to win a championship with a group of guys that you don't have to pay as much? Okay, let's go to like Moneyball. You remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
The analytic side of that movie, and Jonah Hill's character saying like, I believe that there's a group of guys here that a championship team that we can afford. So you take guys like that who want to play for the love of the game and to win a championship. I mean, shouldn't that be the goal of all these players, is to win a championship? Every single one of them shouldn't. If you're playing NFL football, is it not your goal to play the game because you love it and to help your team win a championship?
You would think.
You would think, right? And I get it. Yes, money talks. If somebody stuck a contract from in front of me for $50 million, I'd be hard pressed not to sign it. Depending on what was in the contract, but I mean that'd be, and they said you sign this contract and you're gonna get guaranteed you're gonna make $50 million or more, $100 million, $200 million, 250, whatever. Nobody I dare say nobody on the planet would not consider signing that contract. But those guys that are trying, like you said, they're trying to get there. They have goals to get there. So, who was it? Is it he's on the Jets and he's the punt returner, and he returned that punt against the Bills. Was it Brees Hall, or did he go undrafted? He went, whoever the punt returner is went undrafted. And they were talking about him again after that game, after he returned that punt, and said that he went undrafted. He fought to be here. I mean, he had to fight and claw to be on this team. That's somebody right there who the love of the game. He wants to play. He wants to win a championship. In my mind, I would think that guy right there wants to win a championship. Not worried about necessarily worried about the money or what he can get out of it. Play under the lights, play NFL football, play a game he loves. Because you go on, he went undrafted. He could have just said, "Man, I guess I'm not good enough. I'll just go do whatever."
Yeah.
And then you got, again, on the opposite end, you got him who goes undrafted and does what he does, helps his team beat the Bills. And then you got, again, not saying that Patrick Mahomes, but he's one of the, if not the highest paid player in the NFL right now, or is it Joe Burrow? Who, I don't know who it is, who's the highest paid player at the moment. You got those guys who, I'm not saying that they don't love the game and they don't want to win a championship. But is it easier for them to say to not care? Because they've got this fat contract, guaranteed money. No matter what they do, how they play, they're set for life. There's definitely a disparity there. There's definitely a gap.
Like and it goes back to at college, and I think I've heard where like some high schools or certain states are offering NIL deals for high school students. And I'm like that, we already have issues with private schools here in Arkansas getting to do what they want and always winning and beating public schools, but like that could change the atmosphere if Arkansas did that and a public school was like, oh, we can get boosters to these kids wouldn't have to worry about scholarships at these private schools, and private schools would end up possibly going under, probably not, but I don't know. It's just,
And I understand this has been going on for years and years and years. I mean, it's a question. I mean, I think people need to ask, and think about money, championship. What would you rather have? It doesn't make me like or dislike the NFL anymore or college football. I still enjoy watching them, and I'm still going to watch it. It's just, I think a lot of people think about it and ask the same question. Is it? But is it really? I mean, is it hurting anybody? I don't know. That's not my place to decide. It's not my place to investigate. You would, like I said, you would just think, you would hope that college, NFL, that these players, they play because they love the game and they want to win. They want to win a championship for whatever team they're representing.
Yeah. Like it's one of the things where I think, just in my own shoes, I can't debate how good of a person I am to get more money, because I'm just going to have to go with whatever school, whatever their salary schedule looks like in, situation we live in, where everything, food and stuff, and gas, all that stuff goes up, but not my salary. Then everything just gets tight, where NFL players and NBA players, they can just have a good year and say, well, I think I need more money. Even though they're still in contract, I think I need more money. And their love of the game, instead of trying to play and work out their contract, they're willing to just not play and waste time by not playing. And as silly as it sounds, even though they're not like getting hit, that's your body not getting hit and getting all those little bumps and bruises to be ready for those kind of things, and I don't know. I haven't seen it work out too well for Le'Veon Bell or some of these people that have set out for weeks or a year. So, all right. Well, I think we're going to stop there. Ryan, do you got any last comments for anything?
The I formation is a good football formation that should be used more often.
With a fullback or no fullback?
With the fullback. The fullback needs to come back into full force. Make Mifka, make fullbacks great again.
Like, I like the fullback.
Yes. When you put a tight end in the backfield and let them run and block, good things happen.
And catch.
And catch. It just, good things happen.
Yeah. Ross, any last statements?
I look forward to 18 and a half years from now, when I got my son is the starting quarterback for the Razorbacks and top candidate for a Heisman Trophy, leading them to a national championship. And then I do look forward to Arkansas winning a national championship next year in NCAA football when it comes out. Looking forward.
Can't wait for that game. I can't wait to do the podcast on that.
I haven't heard anything. I've looked periodically. It seems that they're still on schedule for August of next year.
They better be, since they already pushed it back from this year.
But the last thing I read on it was that they're on track for next year, August. I think everything's looking good. So I'm very, very like you. I'm very, very much looking forward to that. So that's about the only, as far as video games go, that right now, that is the only thing I'm looking forward to.
Well, there's Marvel's got a bunch of little things. They have a Black Panther game, a Wolverine game. There's some games like that, kind of like the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy game that they had come out that I'm interested in. But other than that, I've went back and forth on Modern Warfare 3. I've seen some of the maps that they actually said are going to be in it. And I think that's what they should have done with Modern Warfare 2, since that was considered one of the better Call of Duty games. So if I don't know, I might not get it when it first comes out, but if those maps are actually in it, and I might get it, but we'll see. But yeah, that's probably the next big game I'm looking forward, because right now I've been playing baseball. I got the free version of the basketball and golf game from this past year. Then playing, Fortnite with Cheney and stuff like that. So just I'll be interested in football.
I'm finishing up pretty soon, whenever I can have the opportunity. Finishing up Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That's a really fun game. If you like kind of cartoonish games like I do. I don't know. I may go into Kingdom Hearts 2. I finally beat Kingdom Hearts 100% a few months ago. That was actually an accomplishment for me because I've never done it. I've actually sat down and finally did it. But I don't know. I may go back and play God of War again, replay that game, and do some stuff on that. But like you said earlier, there's not really anything that's just like standing out to me at the moment. I'm back and forth on Modern Warfare. I don't know. I've kind of, I don't know. I just kind of gotten out of Call of Duty. It just hasn't lived up to the hype ever since Modern Warfare 2 and
Modern Warfare 2 I just felt like the setup wasn't as user friendly, and I was expecting it to be nostalgia and have a lot of stuff connected to the old one. And I get it's a new one, but don't say you're rebooting it and you're not. I just felt like there's nothing like the original Modern Warfare 2. Because that's what made that game, was the campaign and the multiplayer maps. And like the hardcore wasn't even hardcore. Like they didn't have a kill feed, so you don't know if you killed somebody or not. Like you just shot, and it's just like you shooting to the wall. Like you don't know if you got anybody. They fixed some of that, but it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it hasn't been ever since like probably Black Ops 2 is when it just went. Just hadn't been.
Yeah,
hadn't been the same, hasn't
Vanguard wasn't bad. Like I kind of like that one, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the upcoming months. So, but Ryan Ross, thank you for joining me. Next one we talk about probably still gonna be with some sports. Hopefully we can get some other things added in there. But the next podcast should be 2 weeks from now. So that would be the 29th. Same time. I know our listeners, it's not like we're doing a live podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. Kind of have like a live podcast. But right now it'll just be the morning of, when everything is on there. So hopefully everybody understands that there's not a football game going on at 8:00 on Monday morning, but
technically this is season 3, right? Like we're in season 3.
Pretty much. I think it is. So
I really enjoy it. I love doing this.
Yeah, me too.
I know it's been a while for all of our listeners. Like Randy said, we've had a lot of stuff going on, changes in life for all of us.
Yeah. And the plan was to get back a couple months ago, but then things didn't work. But plan on having new material out every 2 weeks. And we'll go from there. So, all right. This is Ryan Ross and we are signing out. Thanks for listening.